One request that I get over and over again from clients who reach out to me is, can you refer me to a holistic OBGYN? That phrase sounds like a unicorn to most people. And in a lot of parts of the United States, that's true. This week, I would love to introduce you to Dr. Lisa Parsons, who is a true bridge between the traditional medical model and what holistic women's healthcare can truly look like. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an Eastern medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your menstrual health, offering period solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am so excited for today's conversation. I know I say I'm so excited all the time, but I am, because that's the whole reason that this podcast brings me so much joy, is being able to bring amazing people and voices to this show. And today's guest is no exception. Welcome, Dr. Lisa Parsons.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So Dr. Lisa is an incredible human being because she truly is not only all heart in the work that she does, which is what attracted me to collaborating and learning more about what she does, but she is truly a beautiful bridge between the traditional model and more energetic work, and the proof that both can coexist to really support the healing and well-being of her clients. Ooh, I got goosebumps saying that because
Oh,
it's so true.
it is. It is.
So tell us a little bit about you and what you do, Dr. Lisa.
Well, thank you so much for that beautiful intro. Yeah, so my name is Dr. Lisa Parsons. I'm a board certified OBGYN, graduated from Maine Medical Center in 2005, which I can't believe it's been that long. I'm actually seeing patients that I delivered, which just breaks me out, but also so lovely. And I just love that I've brought so many beautiful souls into this world. But, like we've been talking about, Adrienne, it's been a long path to get to where I am now. I opened up this practice, which is Higher Ground Women's Health, about 2 years ago. And it all stemmed from me going along the path of traditional healthcare. I started out as an osteopath, went to UNE, Osteopathic Medical School, and love the philosophy there of viewing people as a whole and not just say a cervix or a uterus. So I had that lovely foundation and went on to do a traditional allopathic residency at Maine Medical Center. And from there went along the traditional route where I worked in the Maine area, since 2005, looking at different traditional models and just feeling as if it wasn't exactly aligned with how I felt women should be cared for. So, starting off in a full-time position as an OBGYN, I was chair of the department, riding up that patriarchal ladder and just realizing 15-30 minute visits were just not enough to develop the relationship that I feel like we all deserve and need as women, and time to tell our stories, time to build trust in our healthcare system and with providers. And it's also a two-way street. Like, it's more meaningful for me when I get to hear those stories. And, one of the huge turning points of me going to the path of opening up my own practice was when I was in that kind of churn and burn environment. Two of my mentors developed ALS, and it just was, one of those moments in time where, the universe shows you like, okay, like what is important. And also, other than work, what else defines you? And, what are you doing with your own life as well? So it just showed me that it was time to look at things and see what else was out there.
I love that. So
Yeah.
I have sent many of my clients Dr. Lisa's way.
Mm.
And one thing that I really love hearing back is like, that was the best pap smear of my life. But
Who says that?
right? Who says that?
Ultimate, put that on a Google review, right?
Truly, like,
Mhm.
because our diagnostics can be so incredibly triggering on so
Mhm.
many levels because of, like you were saying, the stories, getting to know the
Mhm.
stories. Like, it
Mhm.
helps you be able to do these kinds of exams when you know the person's story and you can meet them in that space.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that's one of the richest things about the way that Dr. Lisa practices
Mhm.
is she truly cares for the whole woman.
Okay.
So, talk to the audience a little bit about how your approach to this amazing pap smear
Yeah.
looks a little bit different than what they are accustomed to in a traditional office.
Absolutely. Like, I think, Adrian, like, the beautiful thing is when you get to rewrite the script of those old stories and experiences where people can have so much healing, even just showing women that there are different size speculums that you can use during an exam and that they actually can have a say with, something as simple as that, or even what a speculum looks like. Exactly. You can, right? Mind blowing. So they literally have speculums the size of my pinky for those that are either postmenopausal or let's say it's very painful to have a pap smear. You have options other than that, regular size that most providers will potentially use.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Can I just like put a pin in that for a second? I've been getting pap smears since I was 14 years old,
mhm,
and I didn't know that.
I know. I should have brought some show and tell for
Oh my
today's.
word. Like, for those who were listening, my jaw dropped when she
Oh,
said that, and that's what
uh-huh,
she was responding to my face, and I was
mhm,
like, "Oh my goodness," like, I didn't know that, and I've been working in this field for almost a decade. I had no clue that you could
yeah,
actually choose based on where you are in your life, where you
mhm,
are comfort level-wise, because I can
mhm,
tell you as somebody who has unfortunately experienced sexual trauma that the traditional sized speculum is very triggering for me.
mhm. Yes. And here's another mind blowing thing like with the way that my practice works, because I don't have, a limit in terms of how many times people can come and see me. Like, what if you just went into an office for this type of, you needed a procedure or you needed a pap smear and you just came in to have a cup of tea and look at what that procedure room looks like. Okay. So this room has plants and crystals and we can play music and I'm just going to show you what the room looks like today and we're going to have a cup of tea together. Then maybe next time we talk about an exam or you bring in the playlist that you want me to play during your exam. Like it is that sort of, like meeting people where they are and that there's no rush, right? Like that's the beauty is that my visits are usually an hour to an hour and a half. And, the other thing that I've brought in, which I know is going to ring so true to you, is sound healing. So
Mm,
I can't tell you the power that has brought in to both, helping to release women's stories and helping them also feel in their body.
mhm,
So we will use, grounding tuning forks when people first come in to even just get them here because most people have been, running through traffic or they couldn't find the location or they're feeling nervous. So to even just start with something as simple as that, that literally takes 15 seconds, to me, it's like, why can't we be doing this in any model, right? Like you could do this in the hospital, you could do this in a traditional office. These are little things that make people feel welcomed and just like that breath where they can be here in their bodies when they're coming for their visits. And then from there, I always tell them, I'll put on my doctor hat for a little bit and take their blood pressure if they want and listen to their story and do an exam. And then at the end, I bring sound healing in to help bring in healing to those areas that we've talked about and found, and then also have them have that positive experience at the end where, again, they're brought back into their body. Because, as you know, like so many women that have either had trauma or we all have our stories, where do we push that stuff? We push it out here or
Mhm.
we hold it in density in our
Mhm.
body.
Mhm.
So, when you have sound healing, you can help release those stories when people are ready. And how empowering can that be?
It's so special, the power of
Mhm,
sound. It's the
mhm,
whole reason that Acutonics felt like the best fit to bring
mhm.
into my practice
Love it.
because we live in our heads. We're always thinking about where we need to go. But when we get into an exam space, particularly one like your office, we
Mhm,
tend to go backwards.
mhm, mhm.
And if you close your eyes, you're not in the present moment.
Exactly.
And it's very easy to regress into things that came prior to that moment instead of
Mhm,
being able to stay in the present moment, which
mhm,
can make those kinds of routine examinations feel like the hardest thing you've done in years.
mhm,
And to have a space like that where you're taking the time to ground them, you're taking the time to bring them back home to their body,
mhm.
that's so powerful.
It is. And the other thing that this is developing into as well is the concept, and I know you'll appreciate this as well. It's like, yes, I am considered a healer, but I also want my patient to be able to heal themselves. I want them to take that frequency and that energy and be able to know that they can keep that in their body and they have the capability of changing energy within their own cells. And
Mm,
that's where the magic happens, right?
absolutely. Yep,
Mm,
we are fully capable of healing and unlocking that potential is one of the greatest gifts that
mhm.
we can give our clients. I love that.
Yeah. This is years and years in the making.
I get it. I totally
Yeah.
get it. And I resonate so much with your story in terms of climbing that patriarchal ladder and running after what society has like created for expectations of like what you should want to achieve. I did
Right.
that for years and it was at the expense of myself. Like
Mhm.
my cycles got crazy, my symptoms were crazy, and then in the midst of all of that running and crazy, I wanted to try to have a baby with the love of my life.
Right.
And my body went, "Too much saber-toothed tiger, not enough rest, girlfriend.
Mhm.
We're not going to do this for you."
This is not a good idea at the moment.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So it was a huge mindset shift in terms of being able to make those changes and choices for me and learning how to plan my workflow
Mm,
around the gifts that my cycle gave me in terms of
mm,
energy fluctuations and how my brain functions at different parts of the month, and that was a huge game changer for me. But stepping out of that model of needing to live in spring and summer energy all the time
mhm.
and go produce, and it's just not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, and then you start to lose the joy and spark of why you did this in the first place, right? And when you're out of alignment, it's just the rest of it snowballs, right? And so there is such a high rate. I mean, we can talk about burnout, right, in the traditional setting, but for me, it was even just like I knew at a cellular level that this was not what I was supposed to be doing in this particular model. And it takes courage, like you said, to like step outside and say, okay, this isn't working. And I don't know what the next step is, but it's not this. And, some really scary times of, like we talked about the unlearning of this was a big one for me. Like the productivity does not equal my worth. Okay. That is a huge one that was just pounded into us as from medical students on. And to take a step back and be like, okay, that is not true. And I can do my work in the way that I feel it's meant to be done and be even more valuable. Right.
Oof.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. My worth is not measured by my productivity. I just feel like that had to be said again because we still, like, whether we are stay at home moms or we are working out in the corporate world or whatever capacity it is that we're showing up in the world, we have this understanding. And I had a conversation kind of similar to this in episode 7 with Angela Castrino, and the episode was called Woman's Worth,
Mm,
where if we're idle and our partner gets home, there's like this unspoken assumption that I haven't been doing anything all day, and I
mhm.
now need to, like, list off the litany of things that I've accomplished throughout the entire day, but this was the one moment I sat down. It just caught me in it.
And here comes the guilt, 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 guilt.
Yes, the guilt, the shame
Yes.
that, we hold this so deep in our body in terms
Mhm.
of how we measure our worth, and, for somebody who is in such a high demand, high performance,
Mhm.
tons of work to be credentialed and qualified and all of these things in the
Right.
way that you're doing the work that you're doing. Like, I can only imagine how heavy that felt. And
Mhm.
then the release, the emancipation that
Mm.
came with recognizing that I'm so much more than just this.
Oh my gosh, yes. And to take that pause to really define what it is, like this practice is who I am. This represents me. Whereas before I was working under a system where I wasn't valued as an individual. It was never enough. I had beautiful experiences, don't get me wrong, and there's definitely a place for, like, okay, you're in a car accident and you need emergent surgery. Yeah, those things are needed. But my point is, like, the majority of the time, especially when it comes to wellness and the holistic vision, the traditional model really cannot support that as it is right now. But I do think that there's a way to bring some of this in so that it can be both. The fact that I still do minor surgeries and, I still deliver babies. I work per diem at Maine Medical Center and love working with the residents to show that there's a different way. You know, there is that balance that is possible.
Talk about walking your talk.
Yeah.
Like, I have charted a course for myself that is in true alignment
Hmm.
with my essence and my soul's journey and the
Hmm.
gifts that I'm supposed to give the world. And now I'm stepping back into a space that needs this sprinkled everywhere.
Hmm.
And I am modeling. I am a leader to show
Hmm.
you that there can be another way to do that.
Yes. And that's the truth. It's like, I feel like, yes, there's my practice, but then there's the global healthcare system and
Mhm.
it's changing and it needs to change. Like, we need people to understand, so my model is called the direct care model, where I do not work directly with insurance for people that come and see me, right? For my time, it's outside of the insurance model, but they can use their insurance, if they need an ultrasound or imaging, or, if they are, obviously need to be hospitalized. So there can be both, right? Or using your health savings account or flexible savings account to pay for your health shares, where you have more autonomy where your health dollars go. Because many times when you ask people, healthy people that have insurance, what has their insurance given them? Most of them haven't even met their deductible, right? So they're paying out of pocket anyways, but they do not have a say of where they're going for their health care or the access to care that they have, because access is a whole nother issue now.
Mhm.
So, in at least Southern Maine, there's more direct care doctors here than anywhere else nationwide. So I think that says a lot about the people in our area, that, they want more and they're searching for alternatives. And that gets me very excited because it can be both.
It gets me really excited too. So, anybody who's listened to the Reproductive Rebel podcast for any period of time, you've heard me essentially be a skeptic of aspects of the traditional model. And it's to the points that you're making
Mhm.
that there can be a bridge
Mhm.
here and that you can expect more
Mhm.
from your healthcare and what you want your care to look like. And the reason why it comes up so often is because a lot of people don't know to question it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And this is something that, like, I want this show to raise awareness around,
Mhm.
is that you have options. Your
Mhm.
body is your body. Like,
Mhm.
you can decide, does this procedure feel aligned to me or not?
Right.
Can I get more information about this thing so that I can make an informed decision? Because I'm not anti-traditional model. I'm not. I'm an advocate for the synergy
Yes.
between Eastern and Western, between other
Yeah.
forms of energetic work that can be
Mhm.
brought into the care setting. I have an acutonics colleague in Florida who is an OBGYN also, and he
Mhm.
brings acutonics. He's got gongs in his office and that
Me
kind
too.
of thing,
I love it. Yeah.
which is so exciting because it's
Mhm.
like there are traditional practitioners who are seeing all of the beauty and gifts that being able to be that bridge between and work in a synergistic way with your, your quote unquote alternative health
Mhm.
options really is to the best outcome for the client.
And again, it goes the other, like we were talking about, it goes the other way as well. Like the beautiful thing when someone has been trained in the science realm, in the traditional realm, you can put on your little science cap and look at some of these alternative testings and therapies and say, does this make sense? And I love that I can do that. I also love that science is now backing up things such as sound healing that we've known for thousands of years. And now we have some good studies to be like, oh, look, it's true. And oh, this frequency can help, destroy cancer cells. And 40 hertz frequency can decrease Alzheimer's plaques in patients. This was an MIT, research project last year. So this is what gets me really excited is like, okay, here's the good news is we're all recognizing that there has to be more.
Hmm.
Even the traditional model realizes that this is not sustainable, right? So with that, again, some of the beautiful things that I've seen, at least in my profession, is that there are more options now for people in terms of job shares, part-time positions, controversial whether or not, turnists are a good thing or not, but from a sleep perspective and studies on, doctors that have been up for, more than 48 hours than operating on people, like there is some safety and benefits of that too. So I'm excited, especially in the field of OBGYN, that even the hospitals are recognizing that we need to keep good providers in their positions and also give them a good quality of life so that they don't burn out and leave. And that goes for nurses as well and midwives. It's like we have to realize that this is a really stressful time in general. And then when it comes to healthcare, it's critical to help, keep it sustainable.
Where do you think some of the hesitations or roadblocks are from the traditional model
Mhm,
perspective in integrating sound into their practice, for
mhm.
example?
Yeah, I think fear, there's a lot of fear based on alternative medications because it's not considered standard of care. There's so much fear from like a medical legal standpoint, even though we know it's completely safe, right? I think again, people are so concerned about standard of care and also time. There's just, even though, we described 15 seconds of bringing sound healing or even just one sound bowl at the end of the exam, I think people are so overwhelmed with their lack of time that they have with patients. That would just be one more thing, unfortunately. So we have to increase the amount of time that we spend and realize that the outcomes, when you spend more time with people, they're less likely to probably go to the emergency room or urgent care. They're more likely to be compliant with their care plan because they feel like they've been part of the discussion. So it's like this tunnel vision, right? Where it's like if people could just take a step back and realize, like, oh my gosh, the outcomes would be so much better if we had a little more time and we could bring more of these holistic options in. So, but we're not there yet, but hopefully it will. The more that there are people like us that are kind of, showing better outcomes, better patient satisfaction, more follow up visits, time is going to just prove it to be true.
I love that.
Mhm,
That's always been my impression because I
mhm,
feel like malpractice insurance and standard operating procedures always stand in the way of the kind
Yeah,
of care that a lot of practitioners have. Like, nobody goes into medicine not wanting to care for people,
exactly. Exactly.
and then the system really indoctrinates them into a certain way of thinking and going about day to day work. And, I've spoken to several people who are working on either adding tools that they can bring into a traditional model, like you and I have just talked about, or creating partnerships with people like me and other practitioners that do holistic women's work
Yes.
and finding ways to collaborate in
Hmm.
terms of the best needs of the person that is being taken care of. I always love when somebody's primary care doctor, naturopath, acupuncturist, whomever that's on
Yeah.
their current care team reaches out and goes, "Hey, let's grab a Zoom call.
Yeah. I
Let's
love
talk
that.
about this." I'm like,
Hmm.
"Yes, I,
Yes.
I will tell you anything and everything about what I do if you want to do this."
Yeah.
And it's so great. And then I've also had OBGYNs like corner me in public places and tell
Mm.
me that what I do is quackery and I should be ashamed of myself and those types of things. And my response to them is, I understand that you're speaking from a place of a lack of information, and I'm
Hmm.
happy to come in and do a lunch and learn or sit down and have a cup of coffee or whatever and just talk about what it is that I actually do
Right.
so that
Right.
there's better understanding there.
I think that is such a good point. And again, this goes back to what I was saying with you in terms of, and this is why I'm joining your holistic team in September. It's like, let's be able to put on those science hats and make our own decisions on what makes sense
Yep.
and know the beautiful people. That's such a good point that you made, because here's the other thing I learned. It's not all on my shoulders. There is a
Mhm.
beautiful community out there, including yourself, that can care for my patient just as well, if not better, in terms of certain realms for their conditions. So it's called leave your ego at the door, okay? And realize that it is a community and we do heal more when we can utilize our superpowers, right?
I love that. And it's
Mhm.
true. As healers, we all bring different lenses, different perspectives, different life experiences, different
Mhm.
training, and when we can have those kinds of really rich conversations, like, I was talking with a mental health professional the other day, and
Mhm.
we ended up having this really cool conversation about trauma. I mean, not
Mhm.
the topic of trauma is cool, but we had a really in depth conversation. They practice very much scientifically,
Mhm.
not as open actually to alternative means of care. And
Mhm.
yet, where we came together in that discussion was around the fact that the body keeps the score. And we ended
Right.
up talking about that
Love that.
concept. And then there was like this opening of, oh, well, I may not use this terminology because this is what you use in your discipline, but
Mhm.
here's how it shows up for me in the essentially the terminology and the jargon of
Right.
the way I've been taught.
Mhm.
And it was a really interesting conversation, a very rich conversation. We ended up
Yeah.
sharing books with each other that we thought would be
Mhm.
really helpful and like whatever. It was awesome.
Mhm.
But we were talking about how trauma is held in the body. And I said, yes. And in my practice, I see it pretty much from the solar plexus down into the
Mhm.
pelvis. This is
Mhm.
where women bury this
Yeah.
stuff and try to pretend like it doesn't exist. And
Yeah.
then they can't figure out why they're having period problems and they have
Right.
fibroids and,
Right.
that
And the
type of
root,
thing.
right? Like even being rooted in our bodies in the earth. It's amazing to me how many people are lacking. When I do check with sound healing, their different energy centers, how many people need support in those areas.
Oh gosh, yes. And that's from my perspective, that's one of the most potent places that
Hmm.
pelvic steaming really rises to the challenge
Yeah.
is that it helps to move things that we've bottled and kept locked away in this area.
Mm,
And I had a really great conversation with a pelvic floor physical therapist about how energy gets locked away in this particular area. And again, traditional training,
right.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
having this conversation from kind of an energetic place. And they were able to meet me in that space and go, you know what? I've noticed that the psoas does this when a patient has had this. And I'm like, yes. And then when, if you introduce pelvic steaming in, then all of a sudden these things open up.
Yeah.
And, we collaborated on a few cases and they were actually able to do more in their sessions
Mm,
with their clients when the person steamed before they went in.
amazing.
So there's so many ways that these kinds of modalities can work in really beautiful synergy so that people don't suffer.
Hmm. And, the other beautiful thing that you're describing too is the sisterhood of us supporting each other, which again, in the traditional model, I did not have that feeling of sisterhood and collaboration. And you just realize when you do have that trust and that support, we're not cookbook. Like we can create what's best for each individual person. Yeah, checklists are important for surgical procedures and making sure we're using the right side or left side. But, in general, when it comes to wellness and holistic care, that is not how things should be.
Well, and I was thinking about what you were saying about the fact that you still step in and do surgical procedures and whatnot.
Hmm.
And I can only imagine as the person on the receiving end, because, surgical procedures sometimes have to happen. It is a
Right.
thing, right? And I'm not saying that it's not, but like when people trust
Mm,
the person who is going to be holding that scalpel,
yeah.
their outcome after their surgery is so much better.
Hmm.
They feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel like they're being held with the best intention
Absolutely.
by the person who is performing that procedure, and it always yields a better outcome.
For sure. And also to know that they had a say in their options of care, that they're not going to a place that feels like you have to have surgery or nothing. It's like, no, I felt like this is the right situation and the right option for me. And we've tried maybe A, B, and C first. I think that feels a lot better too.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I have seen a lot of posts on
Hmm.
Facebook for people looking for holistic OBGYNs. So the need and the demand for people that can hold all of the scientific and
Hmm.
energetic pieces is growing exponentially.
Hmm.
Do you feel that you are a minority in the field at this point, or do you feel like there is a growing number of people who can hold space that way as well?
So I feel this is the truth. I feel that people are, at least in my community here, I think people are watching me because I'm the first OBGYN. And I'm only doing gynecology in my practice, by the way. I'm not doing obstetrics just because as a solo practitioner, it would be really hard to do obstetrics. I do like preconceptual and infertility and that kind of thing. But I do feel like there's many doctors and providers in the area that are watching me to see how I do that I feel that would want to do what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
It
So
does.
I feel like you said things are percolating. The fact that I'm 2 years now into my practice and things are going well. And the beautiful thing is I'm attracting the right people to my
Mhm.
practice. It's not that land of scarcity, as you first start out in practice. And we've talked about the business aspect of things because they don't teach you that in medical school either. So you're like, I gotta be able to do this. And, oh my gosh. But, as time goes on and it is a roller coaster ride, there's no doubt about it. And I'm working my butt off more than, I would say even as I did in the traditional model, but it's mine. And the right people are finding me and I'm having these beautiful experiences and meeting, people like yourself that really get and see what I'm doing. And I'm feeling it, I'm bringing my intuition and inner compass into this too. Like, I just feel it's only a matter of time where people are like, it can be done. And in
Mm.
fact, I started a Facebook group for direct gynecology, not so much the sound healing and holistic, though there are some people in that group, but there's over 100 gynecologists nationwide right now that are involved just with that Facebook group alone. So I just feel like things are happening, things are spreading, and especially, the more that we support each other that are doing this direct care model, the more it feels less scary for those that are jumping in.
Oh, I love that. I know that you are a diamond in the rough for sure. And now that everybody has had a chance to hear a little bit about you, you now understand why I thought you'd be a perfect reproductive rebel to have
Mm,
on this show, because that's it. We are seen as rebellious in some ways because we are stepping outside of a socially acceptable model or socially accepted model, and as we do that and we blaze this trail for ourselves, we're showing other people that it's possible. People who
mhm.
might have been scared to step outside of that model. And yes, when you are working for yourself, you work a lot more than you did when you were working for somebody else, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And often for a lot less money, but it fills your cup. It fills your soul. You go
Mm,
to bed every night feeling like you have made a positive impact on the world, and you wake up the
mhm.
next day excited to do it all over again.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's totally worth it.
Yeah, and it can just bloom. I can do whatever I want in terms
Yes.
of like any other modality that makes sense. I can create it here. I do not have anything holding me back to creating even a shinier version of myself and my practice. So that's just amazing.
Here.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel as well. And,
Yeah.
so much of what I do is literally being an edge walker. Like, I
Mhm.
want to be able to provide people with information so that they can make informed decisions. I want to provide them with, maybe your A, B, and C before you get to the surgery part,
Uh-huh.
because there's a lot of places that the practitioner is just like, oh, you have this issue, we'll take it out. Or you have this issue, here's hormones. And then if the
Right.
hormones don't work, we're going to take it out.
Synthetic hormones at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Synthetic hormones at that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And people are like, but I still don't feel good. I don't feel
Mhm.
heard. I don't feel seen. I don't feel like my
Mhm.
needs are met.
I still have pain.
Yep.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so, you know, as we step out of the box that we've been trained to
Mhm.
work in, with the guideposts and the road
Mhm.
that we're trained to work in. It's like
Mhm.
that poem, I took the road less traveled by and it made all the difference.
Yes.
I love that poem and it's
Yeah.
so true. And I've been walking on that road less traveled for 7, almost 8 years now. And it's hard. There's a lot of education that goes into it.
Mhm.
That's where
Mhm.
part of the birth of this podcast came from. It's a lot
Wow.
of education, but it's totally worth it because then people go, oh, I didn't know I had options.
Exactly.
And then they're able to make empowered decisions that feel aligned for them. And some of
Mhm.
my clients have had hysterectomies because that's what felt aligned to them.
Yes. There are times where it's absolutely very clear that's the right decision. But yeah, I agree with you. I think, some of the things that you talk about hormones, like I've really started to do deeper dives into hormone testing, not just blood work, but looking at there's something called the Dutch test that looks at hormone levels at different times of the day, adrenals, circadian rhythm, how you metabolize hormones. Like they didn't teach us this in medical school. So again, people will judge me that I'm doing those tests, by the way, in our community because, oh, yeah, they'll say, oh, she's just looking to make money. Or, I look at the gut microbiome as well. Oh, that's just, this or that. Well, why don't you actually look at the tests and ask yourself again, does this make sense? And to me, the answer is yes. And that's purely where I'm coming from. And the gut microbiome, like that's our second brain. Like there's so much that's going on there that our current healthcare system, it's starting to pay attention. But, people don't realize, like someone told me who lives in Italy part of the year that every single person there is tested for H. pylori, which is a bacteria that can cause reflux and increase people's risk for stomach cancer. every single person there is tested for H. pylori. Like, why are we not doing that here?
Mm,
It's just things like that make you realize we live in this little bubble, including in this country, in terms of how we do things. And it doesn't mean that that's the right way. So,
I love that. Oh, they should test for H. pylori. It's so
uh,
common.
so common and it wreaks havoc on your gut microbiome.
Yeah, it
So all
does.
these women, perimenopause, even I would say probably infertility as well, like all
Mm.
that inflammation has consequences, right? So again, I've just really enjoyed the process of growing and also being proud of my heritage and my history, but able to redefine it of like what makes sense for me.
I love that. Well, you are blazing a trail, my friend, in
Mm,
terms of what is possible
mm,
in women's healthcare. And I'm so excited that we crossed paths.
Me too.
And it's been such a wonderful relationship to be able to co-create and collaborate on client cases and for the best outcome of everyone involved. And if you were to leave people with a final thought, I know pressure's on, right?
Yeah. But put my hair up for this one.
What would that be?
I think just truly that this bridge is possible, that I'm proving that it can be both. And I think your point of the advocacy, I just truly want people to understand how important their voices are and that they should not accept the status quo as being okay.
Oof, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Welcome.
sharing your
Mm,
wisdom and
Thank you
your
for having me.
energy.
Yeah.
This has been such an awesome conversation. I could literally talk to you for hours.
Let's do it again. We'll be talking again soon.
We should do this again.
We're just getting started.
So, if people are local to the seacoast area of Maine and New Hampshire, how can they get a hold of you?
So I do not believe in automated phone systems. So you actually get to like talk to me. There's a concept. So you can call me. My phone number is 207-331-6341. So you can call me directly. People can set up discovery calls if they just want to know more about my practice. I set aside 30-minute time periods where people can just chat. You can email me at drlisa@highergroundwomenshealth.com. And I'm always happy to just share a to with someone.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I am
Thank
so
you.
grateful, and we will talk again soon.
Perfect. Have a great day. And thank you for everything that you're doing with your outreach. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at MoonEssenceMe on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.